How many troops have you
Yes,
lost?
we have significant losses of troops, and it's a huge tragedy for us.
Well, let's turn now to some other updates on what's going on in Ukraine. In the clip, you see Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson for Putin, admitting, finally, from him at least, that Russia's experiencing massive losses. What's interesting is that that's where he draws the line. It's not a signal that the invasion was a terrible idea or that it should end. When he was asked by the reporter at Sky News whether Russia is experiencing humiliation considering the loss of troops and generals and equipment and all that, Peskov pushed back saying, no, it's a wrong understanding of what's going on. Okay, so they're losing way more soldiers than they thought they would, but this isn't a sign that this shouldn't have happened or anything. Well, take a look at this interesting update. This is according to the Daily Beast. Russian forces that unsuccessfully tried to take Kyiv were so confident that they would win, they brought along outfits to hold a parade in the capital, but they wound up dumping their fancy parade attire when they were forced to retreat. We have this statement saying, for today, we can say that those plans were disrupted and this is a member of the military in Ukraine. And those plans were disrupted by the heroic efforts of Ukrainian armed forces and other defense units of Kyiv. He went on to warn, however, that the capital city still wasn't in the clear, as it's likely the enemy has not given up the goal of a second attack on Kyiv. There is such a threat. So think about the confidence you have to have that you not only think you're gonna take it and just in a few days, and I get why they thought that, most people did, I thought that they would in a few days, but that you take along marching attire so that you can then have a propaganda parade through the sacked capital of a country you invaded. That is amazing hubris there.
I'm torn into believing whether or not Putin thought they would in fact have success to that level, or if he marched them to their deaths and propagandized them to think that they would have success, knowing that they were going to suffer a lot of losses and will continue. He doesn't care about sending his own soldiers to their death. It doesn't faze him at all. That's their job.
Yeah, and whether on the planning side it was true, he definitely doesn't seem to care right now. And that's consistent with the military leadership of Russia for a long time, obviously. But yeah, they're leaving behind supplies, they're leaving behind vehicles, and now
what's gonna happen is enough Ukrainians are gonna leave that then they'll continue to bombard, and eventually it might take hold because people have to leave.
Well, we know millions already have. But in additional updates, Slovakia has now confirmed that they've transferred a Soviet-era air defense system to Ukraine as an S-300 missile defense system, which, considering the ability of Russia to this point, not only to fly fairly freely over Ukraine, but also do missile strikes, and not just in the more neighboring part, the eastern part of Ukraine, but missile strikes in the far west of Ukraine as well. A system like this could be very helpful. There's reason to believe the US was involved in a little bit of the negotiations around this, but it had been expected. This is one of the things that Zelensky wanted. I mean, he wants jets, he wants a no-fly zone, but this is one way that you sort of establish that domestically at least. And in addition to this, the S-300, Ukraine has also apparently received tanks and infantry fighting vehicles from the Czech Republic. And God only knows what'll end up happening, but right now at least, even if it's just a morale booster, some of the Ukrainian military leadership are saying that this is going to be like some of the big battles in World War II. They are going to be accumulating thousands of tanks to provide basically like an iron wall to stop a renewed effort to come at Kyiv. So we don't know week to week how this is going to develop. It has been an obviously wild and at most times incredibly tragic ride from the very beginning. But they are receiving aid. There was additional US aid in the form of Javelin anti-armor systems just earlier this week. So they've held out longer than anyone thought they could, Viviana, and that's a little bit of good news amongst all the bad.
I wonder what's happening behind closed doors right now in regards to negotiations between the US and Russia, because aid is one thing, but there's going to be a lot of dealing going on to try to just control this. And I don't know what sort of concessions we're going to have to make, but that's to be seen.
Yeah, well, okay. With that, we're going to move on to a quick little update on something. Let's jump into this video.
The last one on this.
For For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.